where to even start with the best Bond film of all time.
Indeed. Well, I'm going to be honest. Maybe except for Lazenby, this is our first or our best introduction to a new Bond, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could agree with that. It was different and felt like where most of the pre-missions are like some plot and some villain, something goes down easily. Mm-hmm. This one's like, okay, we're on a training mission. It does tie into the rest of the movie, so it isn't like completely detached, but I enjoyed it for that.
We're gonna need to discuss that, because I watched the movie twice this week and I did not get that impression.
That it was tied to it? Or?
Yeah, I thought it was a completely isolated event, and then we just go on with our regular story.
I don't usually pull up the Wikipedia. I just trying to fill in some gaps because I still have some gaps. But it feels like a convoluted ploy to just mess with the British Secret Service, because I'm hoping that as we go over it, I might understand.
Okay. I'm going to let you cook. But we're going to have a long intro this time before we greet the audience.
Cue the music.
So you're saying this is part of... So the villains have a made-up plan called No More Spies, or whatever it is in Russian. They say that the new head of the KGB has this kill all spies plan. So you got to kill the head of the KGB before he can fire off this plan. But you're saying that our pre-title intro scene is part of that made-up agenda in order to create suspicion for MI6, where they're like, who knew about this training mission? One of our 00 agents is now dead. Like,
only because...
Am I understanding you, or do you have a different take?
No, that's what I understand. Only because a tag gets sent down to the one that gets cut off, and it says "kill all spies" on it.
Where did you read that? My version of the movie didn't have that.
In the Wikipedia, it says it's there. I feel like when they get to Q's lab, I think is when it shows up. Because I initially was like, oh, this is just a fun little jaunt. Okay. And then I was like, oh, it's actually tied to the movie.
I'm going to have to watch it a third time.
That sounds fine.
Because on my second viewing, I specifically was like watching that tag as it went down the rope, and the guy read it, and I was like, well, can I read it? Like, why don't I get to know what it says? And I wasn't even thinking about Q's lab.
I think maybe it's in there, but the wiki says it, and that's why I was led to believe it, because I don't know that we see it happen.
Well, it's not that important. It's and frankly, the Blu-ray copy that I have, I don't know if it preserves the exact thing as the theatrical version, or if any of these had kind of a George Lucas effect applied to them, where maybe something may have been lost. I just don't know. I've never heard of anybody saying that, but I wasn't paying attention to Q's lab closely enough to see that. Yeah. All right. Well, that blows my mind. Let's get started.
Cue the music.
Potato Chip Pictures, a movie franchise review podcast currently looking at the 007 James Bond movie franchise. My name is B. Sammy Davis.
I am again Justin this week. I could have changed my name.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even think about it because it is
James again.
A new Bond. We've done it. We've gone through the most Bondliest Bond of them all, and now we have our new Bond.
Undefeated.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's a good way to say goodbye to Roger Moore.
Exactly. He's done the most movies. If you count the non-Eon Bond film that Sean Connery was in, he is tied, but it's not officially part of the franchise, and therefore I don't count it. And Roger Moore is the top.
He never comes back as Bond again, right? He doesn't do a non-Eon production.
Yeah, I don't think Roger Moore ever comes back as even a spy character. I know that Pierce Brosnan has played spies since being Bond. I know that Sean Connery has played naval characters and sometimes spies or spy-like characters. I don't know anything about Lazenby's career, so I don't know if he's done anything else similar. And then Daniel Craig, he was in one of the versions of The Saint in the early aughts, and that is a Cold War spy movie.
The Saint was so fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed The Saint.
Yeah, so that was pre-Bond spy, and I loved it a lot. So when he was announced as Bond, I was like, yep, I'm in. You sold me. I've already seen his audition tape. But we're jumping all over the place and not mentioning our main guy, the star of the show. We're looking at The Living Daylights from 1987, starring Timothy Dalton with his first crack at playing James Bond.
I think I didn't know him from anything until Hot Fuzz, and so I enjoyed him in that, and it was expectation for that sort of character, because I mean it kind of works like that. But I feel like he was a bit more serious in this one, like as far as to say realistic James Bond, but just a spy who just trying to get the job done and doesn't necessarily have to get with everybody to make it happen.
I will say that is refreshing. This Bond, he really only has eyes for one person. I don't know if he sleeps with anyone else. I don't
recall.
Yeah, I wasn't paying that close attention, but he really does court one person pretty intensely for most of the movie. And even though it's part of the mission, it's refreshing that we don't have a Bond who's super horny. Here's a Bond who is super charming, and he was able to draw the person in, but he's not horny like our last three guys, kind of.
I mean, aside from the fact that at the beginning he notices the other main character blonde in the string section. I mean, but that I feel like that's the interesting part about this Bond. It feels like some things pay off because they're set up, and like the plot is introducing Bond into a greater plot that he has to detect and figure out. And I enjoyed that.
I absolutely agree with you. I think for me, this was a first viewing. I had never seen this movie before. So
I mean, same.
Yeah. So I was in the same boat as you, watching this movie for the first time, being like, I don't know what this is. And I'm going to admit, for the first quarter of it, I was like, do they know what this movie is? Like, we are jumping everywhere, and I don't know who anyone is. And when things start to fall into place, you realize just how tight the story is. And they are really doing a great job of manipulating and deceiving the audience into thinking that there's nothing going on, but there's a really good international mystery here. Now, I will say this is probably the lowest stakes of any Bond movie ever.
Yeah, I was like, was there something I missed from like a nuclear launch perspective, or like last time where the Russian guy was going to just get all the power and make things happen? Okay, low stakes. I guess that makes more sense of why I was not sure if we had conquered whoever we needed to finish off.
Nope. We've still got John Glenn. In fact, since we're talking about John Glenn, this time around, he was given a budget of $40 million. That's $10 million more than when we had with Roger Moore. And he returned $191 million at the time, which was about $40 million more than the previous movie returned. So not only did he make his money back, but he was worth that investment. But if you had just pitched it on paper, here is a really quick, we don't say it enough, but these episodes are always going to be full of spoilers because we want to talk about the whole movie and then rate it. So we're assuming you have seen these movies and you're here on this ride with us. But for a brief reminder, our story is there is a defector who wants to get into Austria from Czechoslovakia. He has to cross the border. He only wants to be escorted by Bond because he knows James Bond by reputation. And he explains that there is a new head of the KGB who has a plot called Kill All Spies. And we quickly learn that this is a ruse. He has described a plot where spies will kill each other until the major powers devolve into nuclear war. None of that is rooted in reality, except trying to get the new head of the KGB murdered by James Bond, which might start an international incident, but not a nuclear war.
Yeah, like maybe.
Yeah,
it didn't make sense.
So all of that is a red herring. That is really just there to throw buzzwords at the audience to be like, okay, I think I know what this movie is. But then we quickly learn that this is actually an embezzlement and drug racketeering scheme. Like there's all these moving parts, and there's this American arms dealer working with a Russian general, and they are essentially stealing money from the Russian government, buying and selling a bunch of drugs for a massive profit, and then taking that invested money and buying the original guns that they were going to buy for the government, but keeping the extra money as profit. So those are our stakes. Very low.
It's like the jewelry thing, but at least he was going to commit to making, crisis happen from the circus one.
Yeah.
Octopussy.
Yeah.
Right?
That one probably was the highest stakes of all of John Glenn's movies, where it really did feel like, okay, we're going to have a nuclear bomb going off in Berlin, like at the border. That's going to hit both sides. Like, that's incredible. Those are good stakes. These ones, if you are looking for the super spy known as James Bond, these are exceptionally low stakes.
These are his side stories.
Yeah. But I still kind of like it. I like, even as a side story, I'm like, I'm glad I went on that journey.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one. I feel like more than most of the other Bonds. The way that Lazenby was somewhat ridiculous in the hypnotism and just the plot and everything. This one, he still has all the gadgets, but it feels closer to the time period. I don't have to imagine that hypnosis will actually make you suggestible like that when I'm watching it.
I'll agree with you there. I think that you know, as I think about the different Bonds, we had Connery, who I feel was a little bit too aggressive with women. Otherwise, very good start for the character. Like when he was dealing with villains, I was all in. It's only his dealings with women where I'm like, ooh, gross. Lazenby, we only got one movie. It was a very good movie. It's just a little on the distracting side, living here in the future, knowing that the next movie is not going to be Lazenby. And then when we get to Roger Moore, I feel like he really nailed his version of Bond, which was this charming, easygoing, relaxed guy, but still kind of horny. And now we've got someone I'm on the fence with. I gotta be honest. I feel like the beginning of the movie kind of had him as this arrogant, I don't need anybody kind of.
Yeah. I'll get fired if I go ahead and tell my boss.
Yeah.
I'll get fired. That's
See
fine.
what he does. Fire me.
I feel like Roger Moore threatened that. Or was that?
It was Lazenby who
Lazenby,
said he was going to quit, but Miss Moneypenny was like, nope, you're going on vacation.
She's a fixer.
Yep.
I think I did read that Brosnan almost was brought in for the new one, but because he was rumored, they kept him on for more interest in his Remington Steele project. I don't know anything about that one, but I'm trying to imagine him in this movie, and I don't know how to define it other than the camera looks older than GoldenEye.
Yes.
And I feel like GoldenEye succeeds with that. This one is very 80s, right? When did this come out?
That's a great question. 1987.
Okay. So whatever happened between, all that time with cameras, I don't know that I would see Brosnan in this spot as the right Bond.
I find that fascinating because if you look at the list and you have their years next to each other, there is a 6-year gap between the next movie and Brosnan and GoldenEye. And we're going to talk about it over and over and over again. But as I think about that, I'm like, would that gap exist if Brosnan had come in the late 80s? Something else.
Would he have done 7 Bonds?
Yeah. Would there have been 3, maybe 4 movies in between License to Kill and GoldenEye? Would he have continued making all of these movies after already making 5 of them by the time GoldenEye comes up? Like, there's so many ways you can think about these movies where you're like, oh, how would history have changed? Because Timothy Dalton had been considered when George Lazenby was cast. He was one of the main considerations. Roger Moore was also in consideration. But he was just rejected outright for being older than who was our first guy, Sean Connery. So, but he was part of the list of people talked about. And then there was Timothy Dalton, who auditioned and was a serious consideration. And then they picked Lazenby. Well, what would the world have looked like if Timothy Dalton got it then? Like, there would be no Roger Moore. I am sure of it. At least Roger Moore is James Bond. I don't think he would have come in after Dalton. Yeah. So there's all sorts of ways to rearrange the pieces and make yourself kind of have your mind twisted.
I'm kind of glad that Dalton is in this spot because it feels mostly right. I feel like the haircuts are still 80s. The James Bond GoldenEye is just the first one that I ever watched, so it's like cemented in, like, oh, that man is James Bond. So,
yeah, he does fit extremely well. I really only have issue with him at the very beginning. When we're doing the opening sequence, I'm fine with him. He's really just there as an action star. It's when we get into the story proper that I'm kind of like, I don't like the guy. But then as the movie goes, I'm like, he really is a good James Bond. Like, they did a great job casting this guy. He fits the bill. Like, I see it now.
And I think the pieces that may be left off of this movie, maybe we'll see him in the next one, but I just remembering Q describing his little gadgets and the obvious whistle that's supposed to be with your gadget is a wolf whistle. So that obviously fits you, Bond. And it's like, well, I haven't seen him be quite so aggressive, but I mean,
I think this was made for old Bond.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into it proper. We've kind of given the 1,000-foot overview of some of our bigger views. I think maybe at the end of it, if you can help me remember, we can do our current... No, let's wait. I keep wanting to do a James Bond ranking episode, and I'm like, let's just have all the Bonds, and then let's do it. You can volunteer the information if you want, but I'm fine with...
I mean, we'll get through the other Bonds, and, well, what? There's only 2 left?
After Dalton, yeah.
That's so crazy.
We're in the final 3.
That's something. Well, yeah, we'll do that at a different time, but I think I'm trying to think of where I want to start my thoughts, because it works as a 1,000-foot one, but I gotta say, watching it at normal speed, I feel like I forgot details between the scenes. Mm-hmm. So then I didn't know why they were at a new location, and the wiki of locations for this place is like 50 different places.
Yeah, this really is a globe-hopping adventure for such tiny, microscopic stakes. Relative to James Bond.
Have a shot here. Yeah.
Okay. I did not like this opening sequence, and I could not put my finger on it because I wanted to come in and be like, well, it's not connected to the main story, so who cares?
But
then
it is.
My brain has been scrambled, but it kind of supports one of the... Earlier I had a hypothesis that the closer the opening sequence was to the main movie, the worse the movie would be. And where this one is only a little bit connected, like blink and you miss it connected, I'm a little more forgiving of it, but I don't love it. And I don't think this is one of the best Bond movies in the world, but it's fine. It's probably the best introduction of a Bond so far.
Yeah. I think it's since I missed it on the first glance, and later on there's another reaction that hinges on the fact that they're killing spies. So where it doesn't feel connected, I think it's not as great. But we meet Bond, he gets in a car chase, and cars blow up, and he very smoothly lands on presumably single lady's boat, and she's just desperately looking for a good man.
We did gloss over the big thing, and I only want to bring it up because I thought it was the best thing of this opening sequence, and that is that this is a training mission of the British Secret Service versus, I think, the British Armed Forces. I don't think it is their Navy. I think it's their Army.
SAS.
Okay. So Special Forces or something like that. But anyway, sure we've got 2 versions of their super equivalent, or their super services, going against each other in a paintball match. If the spies can get into the satellite, they win. If the SAS can take out the 3 spies, they win. Except there's a 4th dude in the mix who has live rounds. He kills someone from the SAF, sends down that tag that I never knew we got to read.
We read it in M's office once they talk about going to someplace. It slips the mind, but I just saw him flip it over and read it,
can't
but I don't know what it
place
says.
it in my head. I'm sitting here like, what are you talking about?
It's the tag. I don't know if he says it very well. Like, we got this off of 00, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Wait, was 00 the person that died? I guess so.
Yeah, we had 3 00 agents in that mission. I don't remember which number died because they did tell us that it was a 00 agent who died during that mission. And so I'm sitting here like, wow, like whoever this guy is, he just killed a 00 agent. I don't know why he steals the truck full of explosives, which leads to the car chase because Bond gets on top of it, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know why. Why did he grab the truck?
Trying to get away from killing a spy. That's all I can think of.
You might have hit the nail right on the head. It might have been kill one spy and leave.
Not all spies.
Yeah, just one. Just one, leave evidence and go. I knew the tag had been dropped. I was sure the tag had something written on it because the spy reacted to it. I was like, I don't remember it ever being brought up again in the movie, and so it kind of rattles my
Well, your third viewing should be another good one. Maybe you'll change your score after you get through.
Yeah, I'll be like, this is the greatest 10 out of 10, all because I saw the tag this time.
I mean, other stuff relies on it, so it's tough to be really like, oh, we didn't even realize this, guys. You got to tell us more.
But you were right. He lands on top of a yacht, and I did get a chuckle out of this. I feel guilty for getting a chuckle out of it, but I got one. When the lady, the very 80s, very yuppie single woman on her single woman's yacht is talking to her other single friends saying, the guys are so boring.
Yeah, I'm like, this was maybe the least necessary part of this intro. He's James Bond. Like, it's fine.
But I did love him landing, flipping over the awning. The awning that would, in any other movie, would have, ripped and had him go through it. We saw that happen in the last Bond movie. Roger Moore went through an awning. But anyway, I guess
the wedding thing.
Yeah, because he's on he's got a parachute. It's okay. He's able to get through there. Fine. But he does the flip so hard. And then lounges on her sofa to be like, she'll call you back.
I need to borrow your phone.
Yeah. So I guess maybe Bond did sleep with one other woman in this movie.
Yeah. It was not quite so hit in the face with it. So
yeah, it was just like we've blown up a dude and now we're making out with a lady. Let's go. Cue the music.
4 out of 10 on the intro.
I think that is phenomenally fair. I was going to say a 3 out of 10 for the intro. It's not one of my favorites. It's got style. It's got pretty good pacing. I just don't like it. I don't know why. I can't really voice it. Then we go to a song that I'm going to confess I have a bit of a soft spot for. And it might be because, like the last movie's theme song band, I hate this band, but I'm shocked at how much I like this song.
I mean, I didn't love it. It was very... I don't really even remember the melody. I just know The Living Daylights.
Mm-hmm. It's The Living Daylights by Aha. Their one and only big hit besides this was Take On Me, which is a banger of a song. I am never going to talk bad about that song. They deserve their spot in culture for that song. The Living Daylights, it's a fine song. I listened to the Aha album that had their biggest song on it, and I hated it. It was one of the worst listens I had ever had, except for Take On Me. I was like, all right, we got the hit song, but I would have been so angry if I bought this in the 80s. And, I'm kind of surprised that there is a second song that sounds good. I'm like, wow, good job, Aha. You wrote a second song that I can like.
Wrote a good song. Just twice, though.
Yep.
Yeah, no, not my favorite. I think they maybe went a little further with the naked ladies in the dancing intro. But
dude, I was just about to say this is our first time without a naked lady.
Well,
every lady is
body paint.
Well, that is I don't even know if that's body paint. If I'm honest with you, I think it's a painted swimsuit, like a bikini type deal. Just because it doesn't look flaky like body paint usually does. Like, I don't know. It might just be body paint, and maybe I'm sitting here saying body paint counts as clothes.
I thought it was just nudity with, some barely covered features. So,
and I'm like, what's clothing? It's covering the features. So
yeah.
Paint is covering the features. I'm gonna say that's non-nude. But the distant shot, which is usually in the previous movies a full-on naked lady, and that's always what has kept me from showing it to my kids, even though I've shown them significantly worse. But anyway, this one, the distant shots, is a lady in a unitard or, a single suit type deal. And I was like, wow, this is surprisingly modest for a Bond movie.
Yeah, the ones that were wearing stuff. Yeah, I think there was just a couple that seemed like it. So
yeah,
paired with the song, it's another non-memorable or really. I don't feel like the bubbly and champagne and hair blowing from the bubbles was very innovative. It's just like, oh yeah, that's interesting.
It's middle of the road, but maybe somewhere on the positive end for me. But still, quite forgettable, quite in the middle. It's not going to be one that I'm like, oh yeah, the living daylights. But it gets us into the movie proper, where
trying to defect, trying to protect him. If we ignore the underpinnings of the why, Bond is simply assigned to countersnipe an assassination attempt of, I can't remember what he is. He's a general.
Yeah.
Georgi.
Yep.
And they keep saying his name, and I was like, oh, I missed that was the assassinee. So he's trying to get out of there before he gets shot because they know he's trying to defect. So they get someone to try and get him. Bond finds out through his command and is assigned to protect him because the British Secret Service want his information.
Exactly.
So
you're caught up.
That's the initial focus.
Yep. And that's everything that the Austrian spy pretty much tells us. Like he lays it out for us pretty well. And I like that you pointed it out because it is seared into my brain. As Bond is looking at the target, who is surrounded by 2 KGB spies, of course his eyes wander to the blonde playing the cello. He's like, who's that? What does that have to do with anything? Oh, he's so lucky it had to do with everything.
Right, exactly. It's like, because she eventually becomes part of the plot, that was okay.
It becomes acceptable, but it is so funny in the moment when you're like, Bond, eyes up here.
Yeah. Well, because she is and it didn't make much sense that she is the sniper, and Bond recognizes her, obviously, but then also realizes she's not good at this. So the KGB wasn't trying to actually attack this guy, but like that doesn't make much sense to Bond because like it just feels like, I feel like that gives a foundation for Bond being suspicious of kill all spies, because if you're serious about killing all spies, and I assume defectors, you're going to send someone that is capable. So
yes.
I feel like maybe that's a bonus towards the plot being consistent.
I was going to say the same thing. When I was watching it on the second viewing, there are key points where Bond becomes suspicious and he never lets it go. He gets an answer, but he doesn't like the answer and he just doesn't accept it. Like he just goes, okay. But he continues on his path and not the one that someone has tried to put him on. So at first, the Austrian spy is like, there's the sniper, you have to kill her. And Bond's like, I don't know. She doesn't look like she knows what she's doing. I'm just going to shoot the rifle. And he's like, you missed on purpose. I'm going to tell your boss. And he's like, so what? But then he's also like, why did he ask for me specifically? Like, why?
And so on the opposite side of it, why, like, Georgi is setting this up. If Bond went through with it, the cellist is dead.
Mm-hmm.
But what did Georgi get out of that? Like, I don't feel like
his girlfriend is dead. That's what he gets out of it.
But why?
Because he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
We find out, I think it's about midway through the movie, that the cellist is Georgi's girlfriend and that he was the one who set up this whole spy thing where she was going to act like a sniper. And she was told, you have to sell it and make it look real. I'm going to pack your gun with blanks. We confirmed that it was packed with blanks, but she is just supposed to fire a couple of blanks and then run away and really let the British Secret Service know that this is a true defection. But Georgi knows that the person he has requested has a license to kill and kills first and asks questions second. So he clearly wants her dead. That's what he gets out of it, is he breaks up with his girlfriend. He is a toxic boyfriend.
Yeah, he's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Well, from the defection, I think there's a little bit of banter between the Austrian spy and Bond that kind of comes in a loop. So Bond can say the same thing, dismissive thing to him, just to, one up the Austrian. And like, that's playful. That's Bond. That felt nice.
I was fine with it. It was so petty. It was so catty. But I'm fine with it. Whatever.
So in the pro column, there's that bit, and like Bond being suspicious. But then the con column, in order to distract the tube operator for getting the guy out of in Austria, I guess.
Yep.
Or wherever they're at, whatever place they're at. They have a female. I don't know. Does she work there actually, or I feel like she's.
She actually
she's helping
works at the gas pipe work or whatever.
Yeah. Distracts him with smushing his face in her cleavage and
distracts her boss, the supervisor, not Bond.
Not Bond. Bond has to send the guy down the tube with a lever pull.
Yep.
And it doesn't really feel like we needed it so much. It's kind of a whatever.
So I'm positive on it, except for one shot. There's one shot where the pipe has an obvious right angle turn.
Yeah.
And that would have obliterated anyone. Plus the device wouldn't have been able to clear the right angle on the pipe. So there's just no way that happens. So cut that. And then I'm like, I'm fine with it. This is cool. We're getting travel. We're getting action. We even have people reacting to the sound of this thing going through. But what are you going to do? Once it's through, it's through. So I liked that. But then I'm pulled out of it with the right angle. But you say too much, too much. Is that what I'm hearing?
Just awkward. Like, that's, you probably could have distracted your boss with something like an emergency. Like, hey, I need you out here to look at something X, Y, or Z. like, the lights will go off.
Yeah.
Things will make noise.
Start a fire.
But, yeah, like
hey, there's a fire in here, help.
It was odd.
I didn't have a problem with it, only because, I'm a single guy. Like, I know absolutely that if someone tried shoving my face in their cleavage, I would probably be like, all right, let's roll with this. Like, let's see what happens.
Distracted.
Exactly. So I fall for it. I accept it. It seems perfectly reasonable that a man would fall for cleavage.
I guess one more bonus is that they get a jump jet shot, and that feels so, I don't know, 90s. Like,
yeah.
Doesn't Bond, next Bond, he also has a jet that hovers.
Yeah, it's the Harrier jet. It is an incredible feat of engineering because, you don't need a runway. You can just go up and down. And this is not the earliest version, because I think they had Harrier jets 5 or more years before that. But now the British Navy, or whoever had whichever branch of the British military had the Harrier jet, they were willing to share it for this Bond production that the whole world got to see. So, I mean, it is a pretty spectacular demonstration of power.
It made it easy to identify playing with jets as toys. Which one was the jump jet? This one doesn't need to fly forward. It just goes, and then it takes off.
Oh, yeah. I loved the fact that, as a kid, I had access to, like, Harrier jets. Like, even American kids were like, yeah, the Brits have an awesome plane. It's a good plane. Let me play with that toy. So, I liked that. Well, I was fine with pretty much all of it. I was like, all right, this is fun. This is an interesting thing. But yeah, there are some moments that are weird. On second viewing, you realize the weirdness comes directly from Bond, who has trust issues. And I like that. I like that this early in the movie, Bond knows something is up. And so we go to the debriefing for this defector. He's in a safe house.
Oh, yeah. He's so happy.
Yeah, he's having a great time. And I think because of how happy he is to be there, I'm believing it. I'm like, okay, so
he defected. He's fine.
He's a real defector. And so he's selling it. It's really well done. In the background, there's this very Eastern Bloc looking dude who is killing off people. He kills off a milkman, and he gains entry into the compound dressed as a milkman.
Nobody questions it.
I mean, he is questioned. It's just he doesn't actually have to show any ID or do anything. He just says the guy has the flu. And they're fine with it. Like, okay.
I guess so. How dangerous could this guy be?
Exactly.
And his explosive milk bottles.
I loved the explosive milk bottles. I really thought that was such a great touch.
It's ridiculous.
It absolutely is. If it's
for Bond getting gadgets that explode, the KGB also manages to pull off some other gadgets that explode. Milk.
But the important thing to remember, dear audience, is that this guy is not part of the KGB. He is just meant to appear as part of the KGB because he is he's part of the deception of death to spies. This is everything that's being done is to sell the British Secret Service on the plan of death to spies. So while
that's why they have to take out Pushkin. Okay.
Yeah. So Georgi is in his play, or he's doing the debriefing, and his whole thing is about death to spies. Pushkin is the new head of the KGB. he's going to start nuclear war through death to spies. It's convoluted, but then this presumably KGB milkman spy comes in and wrecks the entire place, plus kidnaps Georgi and brings him back. Like, from the audience perspective, you're like, holy crap, like, death to spies is going to be a pretty big deal. Like, this is...
He's just as talented as James Bond.
Yeah, like, this is hardcore. I was a little confused on the timing. I did not see M, Bond, and the Secretary of Defense leave. So I was sitting here thinking, like, why? Like, how did this guy kidnap Georgi? Like, there's... Bond was right there, but right before the milkman enters the compound, we see the 3 cars leaving for all of them. So they are off the estate by the time the action erupts. But it's very good deception for the audience, because we're sitting here thinking, holy crap, this is some incredible stuff. And we're likely going to continue to believe it for a long time, because it's not for a few scenes that we get to see Georgi alive and well again. And that's when the audience is finally let in that death to spies was a ruse and it never existed to begin with. But
I'm like, but it's a ruse in order to keep money from the KGB, because Pushkin realizes it, but something like that.
Yeah, Pushkin is on to, I keep calling him Georgi. It's Georgi Koskov. I should call him Koskov or something, or Koskov, sure. Whatever. I'm going to call him Georgi. It's fun to say. He is on to Georgi and the American dude, who I can never remember. God, what's the American's name? Whitaker, that's right.
Or Brad.
Yeah, it's not as cute. Not as fun to say. We'll go with Whitaker.
Well, Brad ends up being a sham, so it's like...
That's true. Well, Brad. And the other thing about Whitaker is that all of his great generals, huge air quotes for an audio-only podcast, they all have his face. He, like, every single person, including Hitler, is Whitaker as a wax figurine, but with that costume and hairstyle. And I think that is so funny that he is that full of himself. But he's the other main villain of this movie. We've got 2 main villains, and Pushkin is going to go meet one of them in Tangier. And Pushkin is onto it. He's like, give me my money back. Either you give me the weapons or give me my money. And frankly, if you don't want us to have beef anymore, you're going to give me both. Like, Pushkin is laying down the law. He's like, I'm in charge here. I don't know who you think you are. Like,
but it does tip this movie in my favor. I absolutely enjoy young Gimli.
Yes.
John Rhys Davies?
I think you're right. That name sounds correct, but Gimli is what I was thinking of too.
He reminds me of the one guy in that desert house in... Which one? The American guy that was captured and kidnapped and put underneath a house that was guarded by 2 women and assassins. That kind of jumped around to fight Bond.
The movie was Diamonds Are Forever.
Oh.
And I don't remember the character's name or the actor playing
in terms
the
of
sausage
another
guy.
Actor being fully inside of the movie, 100% Pushkin. Like, thank you for including this guy who's going to carry his scenes.
I really like him as the new head of the KGB. Gogol is not out of the picture. He will appear in this movie as well, but he's no longer the head of the KGB. He has been promoted to an entirely different department, and now Pushkin is our new head of the KGB, and we think Like, if we are only following what the movie has given to us, we think that we're chasing the villain right now as he yells at some American arms dealer. Like, what's going on? Like, maybe Pushkin really is the bad guy. And
yeah, I think it's him and Bond do meet up, but I do think at that point I wasn't quite sold on. He says, you can either trust what the defector was saying, or you can trust me that I'm not actually doing the kill all spies thing, even though you have a gun on me. Like,
yeah. Like, here's your shot, but please don't.
Yeah, basically.
Well, Bond wants to find the sniper. He asks Miss Moneypenny to look into it. She looks into actual KGB spies, and we see that they are all extremely capable. And this cellist doesn't quite fit the bill, so Bond is like, all right, search for cellists who have to cancel a performance. And sure enough, we find our girl, Kara Milovi. We find out that she is Georgi's girlfriend. And to me, if there is any point in the movie where Bond decides he is not going to kill Pushkin, it is the discovery that Kara, or is it Kara? The girl is Georgi's girl. Like that. That's when I'm like, okay, clearly Bond knows Death to Spies is fake. Like,
yeah. Already didn't trust him, but now that's, yeah.
And he discovers all of this before even, well, he doesn't discover the girlfriend part. He sees the KGB coming in and grabbing her off of a tram. He finds her rifle in her cello case, discovers the blanks, and then follows her back to her apartment. Like, this is very good spy work for a change, and I am really loving it.
I think I initially missed the fact that he kind of put on a persona to be like, oh yeah, I'm Cosgrove's friend, and yeah, he went missing, but I understand that you are also in on it, so we're gonna go find him. And so that bit of spycraft, making her trust him, worked well enough, and kind of started bringing up but he said that he's his friend, but now they're they were just like on a carriage ride or something.
They have to escape the police. They go on a car chase.
Oh, is that one? Oh yeah, the car chase.
Then they have to get on, I don't remember what they get on before they get on the cello.
They are in a car, get stuck in a shed.
Yes, over the ice. You're right.
Yeah.
They use. Okay, I am fine with the car on the ice because I was such a sucker for losing the tire and then turning the wheel into a blade and just cutting a hole. That I chuckled so much. It was so cartoonish that I was just like, okay, I'm good with it. Like, we're fine. And then the Q-Tech of having the skis come out, like, just everything kind of like, once we're on the lake, I'm having a great time.
Yeah. The skiing with the cello case at the end was kind of like, oh, you leaned us so far into the improbable. I feel like we have to accept the cello case would get you both down the mountain fast enough away from people on skis. And then they stop at the border. Like, the bad guys won't cross the border. Like,
well, the bad guys won't cross the border.
But bullets will. Like,
bullets will, and that counts as the bad guys crossing the border. Now, if the bad guys are shooting at them from no man's land between, to me, that should already be an international incident because, this is the area that no one's supposed to be in, especially shooting weapons. But presumably it's not until you get to the fence that you're not creating an international incident. So hopefully the Soviets were smart enough to stop shooting at some point because, yeah, like any bullet that crossed over you can start a war. Like,
yeah. Safe.
Yep.
They needed to be safe. Now they're safe.
And this
Time
was the
for a
part that
carriage
kind
ride.
of didn't sit well with me, only because I was like, why is Kara fine with, crossing the border? And then while talking with you, I realized she believes that her boyfriend Georgi is in the UK. She thinks the defection worked because remember,
Yep.
she just had to make it look real. And he got away, so clearly it was real. Here's one of his Western friends coming to get her. It must be real. Like,
Yep.
sitting with it now, I'm like, okay, gosh, Bond really is a good spy.
I think he did a good job getting the information. I think since he doesn't believe it, he's like, well, okay, what would I need to say for her to think that it's legitimate?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think. I've kind of lost where we are.
Well,
I do know that I wrote down when they take a carriage ride, it felt like the many dates that Lazenby went on with his wife felt like a homage to that. Like, why are you in a carriage ride right now? Okay.
There was a point during this movie where I thought we were going to have Bond get married for a second time.
Oh, well. Yep.
I really thought the chemistry was there. Or at least that they were trying to sell it to me hard enough that I started to make predictions during the movie. And we'll see if we were correct, unless you've already watched the movie, in which you already know. I got it wrong. So after the thrilling cello escape, this is where Pushkin meets with Brad Whitaker in Tangier, canceling the arms deal. It's a short scene, and I cannot for the life of me remember if this is when we finally realize that Georgi is working with Whitaker. Because I cannot remember if Pushkin leaves and then Georgi comes in, or if it's a different scene entirely where we finally learn that they are working together. That's where I'm lost. But to me, I have to compartmentalize these stories a little bit.
Oh yeah, like I would confuse everything from the previous Bonds. I could barely tell you where they're from.
Oh yeah.
Because we finally see that Whitaker and fake defector are in work together. But what are they trying to do in Tangier?
So
He talks to Pushkin.
They need Pushkin to be murdered because Pushkin has just canceled the deal, but he's not back in Russia yet, and he won't be back in Russia.
The money back.
Exactly. So he won't cancel the order until he is back in Russia, and he has this diplomatic meeting coming up. And so Georgi is telling Whitaker, trust me on this, Bond will kill Pushkin. And they have this idea that if he's not killed before the diplomatic event, then they are going to kill him himself. Because Pushkin cannot get back to Russia, or that ruins the plan. The money has to be requisitioned and cleared for transfer for any of this to work. So, does that make sense? Like, that is the supervillain scheme that has been revealed now.
Get the money. Kill out the people that would not give you the money.
Yep.
I mean, that seems more realistic, but
to me,
convoluted.
This is an international noir detective story. Like,
yeah.
If we had replaced Georgi and Whitaker with a jilted lover and an infidelitous wife trying to kill the rich husband, like, this would fit perfectly well in a 1940s black and white movie. But instead, we have an international spy thriller. And so the stakes feel higher, but in my head, I'm able to kind of follow this in a noir mystery type of way, where the detective has already solved the mystery long before the audience has.
Yeah. Then Bond gets rid of Pushkin, but secretly, because...
Well, they have their meeting first. So that we know that, Bond...
They know.
Yes, exactly.
They know what's going on now.
And, it was a very good meeting because the audience has just heard that MI6 is absolutely going to send Bond to kill Pushkin. The Austrian spy gives Bond information about Georgi Whittaker and I think information about Pushkin because he's like, your target is still Pushkin. Go kill him. And so Bond goes to presumably kill Pushkin. But what Pushkin doesn't know is that Bond is really just here for information. He's like, I need to know why Georgi and Whittaker want you dead. Why is that? So I am in love with this Bond at that point. I'm like, I'm sold. Let's go. Timothy Dalton all the way.
Trying to think of... Okay, so he does that. Then he goes to talk to... he tries to escape from being an assassin, quote unquote. He gets picked up by two women at the front that are just Felix Leiter's women that whisk him away.
He's just got lady spies.
Yeah.
And it's a new Felix Leiter.
Yeah. I feel like it was a nice way to just kind of wrap up they're going to search for the assassin. Oh, never mind. You're here with the CIA. They're not going to let you get found. And let's go to a new location. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
he doesn't do anything for the rest of the movie from Felix, does he? He's just there.
Nope. Yeah,
right?
I'm trying to remember because I think they use Felix to listen in on someone because we see him one more time, but he doesn't join the action. He's not part of Afghanistan. He's not part of anything else happening in the movie. So yeah, I keep forgetting all about Felix except for the fact that he's got lady spies.
Yeah.
And we don't know why, but the CIA is there. They exist as well. And it's important to remember this is a British movie franchise. This is not a Hollywood production.
That's true. I was probably thinking that too much.
Yes. And so we see the CIA and we are conditioned to think the Americans are here to save the day. And the Brits are like, the Americans are here. Let's send them away.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh.
Yes.
He does show up later to somehow let Bond into Whittaker's place. I don't know how.
Yeah.
But there's a whole different country before we get to that. Like, I don't know where Tangier is, but I know Afghanistan is a different spot.
I think... Well, I know Tangier is a Mediterranean country, but I'm trying to remember where it is in relation to a couple of movies ago. It might be somewhere in that region. I mean, it was... I think it was a neutral country at the time, because how do you have an American arms dealer selling to the KGB in a Western or Eastern country? It would have to be a neutral country,
Maybe.
I
don't know about history for that.
Yep, I wasn't around for much of the Cold War, and I always thought it was a ridiculous part of history, and now we're watching these movies, and they're like, you know how the Cold War is happening? And I'm like, I didn't pay attention to any
I don't know.
That.
Don't actually know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was bad at geography. But I do love that now Bond and Pushkin... They have essentially said, let's team up. Let's work together. Let's give Georgi and Whitaker exactly what they want, which is a dead Pushkin from the
so
hands.
they can go forward with whatever they were planning.
Exactly.
Like,
so,
and you don't have to die, so that's fine.
Yep. And I loved Pushkin's line after he is assassinated by Bond in front of everyone. They take him back to his hotel. Everybody closes the doors, and the wife is crying over his body. And
I feel like he didn't tell
stands
her.
up. And I think he says something like, "I have never been more grateful for Bond being a good shot."
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's cute. I like that.
I feel like she wasn't like putting on a show. I feel like he didn't tell her that this is going to happen. But he apparently told the people to wheel him out the room, close all the doors beforehand, because he doesn't say anything until he's waking up and scaring her.
But I didn't get the impression she was scared at all. I got the impression that she was just like, okay, we're good now. Everything's fine.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it a third time.
Yeah, such a sacrifice.
I know. I keep saying that this really was a fun movie. It was a delight to watch it twice this week.
See, I like reading the Wikipedia after, because from that assassination we get Bond meeting back up with Kara, and they kind of have a standoffish feel to him, but she initially gives him a drink, and they're talking, and she kind of lets on that she thinks he's up to no good, which he is.
Yep.
But in the intervening time, she had been contacted, I want to say,
by
Georgi.
Either she made contact or Georgi contacted her.
Yeah.
But she's back in touch with her boyfriend.
So he's essentially getting her to drug Bond so that he can be kidnapped. But she realizes that, she would have been killed by Bond. I feel like that reveal it wasn't set up enough for me. I felt like, she should have known that Bond was trying to kill her, but of course she wouldn't have known he was actually there and shot the gun.
I loved it. I loved this scene all the way through. I loved how cagey Kara is. I'm now pronouncing it the American way because I can't remember how they said it in the movie, but I love that she has changed her demeanor. And that Bond kind of catches a vibe, but he's also like, well, I'm super charming and she's into me. So clearly I can trust this drink. Besides, it's his favorite drink. It's a vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. And
you want to trick Bond, you just gotta
make that drink. He's
dazzle
a
him.
Sucker for it. And so he drinks it.
What the assassination attempts and all of the other clues that this defector is real, she managed to trick Bond and they didn't.
Yeah, it's so good. And as he's falling down, obviously, these are actors. I know these are actors. I get lost in the fiction when I am watching these movies. Like, I am teleported to their universe where they are not actors, but real people. And I loved the direction of getting out his line of finally revealing that I was the one who helped Georgi defect. I was the one who shot you, and Georgi wants you dead. And then he's asleep. Yeah. And I was just like, this is incredible. And because it's not a super spy, they're not actually trying to kill Bond. And so I also had zero issue with the fact that they didn't kill Bond.
Yeah.
Because in their eyes, this is the guy who has just assassinated Pushkin. And so they're essentially going for like, look how loyal I am to Russia. I have brought the assassin.
That technically works. Seems like.
I think that I go from being tolerable in this movie. So for the first half of the movie, I'm just sitting here like, okay, whatever. I don't know if they know what they're doing, whatever. It's so weird. And then when we have that drinking scene, that Kara Bond poisoning scene, from that point on, I am sold. I am like, wow, they really put this together well.
Yeah. I think it slows down a little bit for me when they're chilling with the Mujahideen.
Yeah.
Mujahideen.
See, and I love that because I love that we lived through history where
we didn't know about it. I didn't like.
Well, they used to be cultural heroes. They were always seen as freedom fighters. And then 9/11 happens and they're terrorists and they're evil. Like, I just remember the tone shift happening overnight. And I love it. I love watching a movie where, our future most hated enemies are treated as super agents of freedom against the Soviet Union.
That's kind of crazy. I'm trying to read up on that now. Like, I don't know who these people are, but this part is a little bit, boring. At least they didn't offer Bond a woman. Because it's like, wasn't like Felix or something they come across in the desert in some like Sean Connery movie? He's like, hey, there's several, like, stay the night.
It wasn't Felix, but it was a British man who just owned a bunch of women, I guess.
Oh, and that guy, I think he was also the stab through the rice paper guy, or no?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
The Guy in the Desert was a Roger Moore movie. It was The Spy Who Loved Me. And it was when Bond was getting into Cairo, and this was the guy who had information about who had the spies, or not the spies, who had the underwater readings that were, found with the submarine that was captured. It's so hard to remember all of this stuff, but I do remember that our desert amazing. Was The Spy Who Loved Me. And it was Roger Moore, because it's one of the best movies. Not the best, but it lives rent-free in my head. It's our first introduction to Jaws. It was... There's so much to The Spy Who Loved Me that did really well, except for the harem scene in the desert. Yeah,
I couldn't place who that one was. I'm like, that. I know that happened to Bond because that is Bond.
It's a bit embarrassing, but yeah, I cannot pronounce it. Mujahideen was Mujahideen. I can't pronounce it. They were funded and trained by the CIA during Afghanistan's war with the Soviet Union. And they were very good at defending themselves. And later on, they took over Afghanistan and we went to war with them. And for a good 5 years, I just remember getting yelled at if I ever brought up the fact that the CIA had trained them in the first place. Like, it was bad politics to bring up history.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we might have skipped a little bit because there's a whole jail scene.
Yeah.
Because they released the leader of this other force that they need to use.
I grazed over it. Georgi is back in Russian-controlled Afghanistan. They are not in Russia yet, but they're in northern Afghanistan that is controlled by Russia. And he gets there, and there are people there who are like, I've heard that you defected and that you're not one of us anymore. And he's like, not only am I one of you, I brought James Bond, the British secret agent who killed Pushkin, and check it out, I found out that my girlfriend was helping him. So throw them both in jail.
Because he throws them. Yeah.
So this is the second time that he has turned on Kara, and finally she realizes that he really is the bad guy.
The worst.
Yes. So they go to prison. There is a drunken Afghani man. At least that's what we're made to believe, that he's belligerent and he's yelling at the guards, and then the guards are picking on Bond. But, Bond's a young man now, so he's able to actually get in a fight He starts with his whistle key.
Yep.
Apparently,
Stun everybody.
Yeah, like if you sing "God Saves the Queen," or whistled "God Saves the Queen," it really it's stunning. But that's what they told us, that it would work for like 5 to 10 seconds. And sure enough, the big dude is getting up after like 5 to 10 seconds. So I liked it.
Advertised.
Yep.
I feel like it feels so dated, but I can't imagine it was anything other than amazing that you could whistle for your keys and they would make noise so you could find them.
I mean, we're in the era of the clapper where you can clap your hands and the lights turn on and off.
I'm like, I feel like that went away because I put like those tile noise things on my thing now, but I can't like whistle for it. I have to use my phone to find it.
Yep. Well, and really the main issue is a lot of those things didn't work as well as advertised. And so, why continue propping up bad technology? But it was cutting edge in the 80s. That the early days of voice activation were really the 80s. Like we take it for granted now that our phones are listening to us, but we had devices that you could whistle to or clap at and they would respond, and Bond uses it to beat up a couple of Russians.
What's the problem with that? There's no problem there.
I enjoy the fight. We're back to really tight fist fights where the actors have to be right up in the scenes, and I'm still a big fan of those. Like if you've got the actor looking like he's getting beat up, I like it. I like it a lot.
Nice.
Bond gets a Bond gets a D&D style, or I guess Baldur's Gate style morality choice where after he has freed himself and Kara, he can either keep the keys or toss them to the prisoner, and he decides to toss them to the prisoner, and the prisoner will remember that.
It's so lucky and helpful.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think before knowing the rest of the movie, it's like, oh, that's decent of you, Bond.
Exactly.
I think, maybe.
I would have done the exact same thing. There is not a version of reality where I go about asking this person, why are you locked up? And, go through all of that. No, I'm trying to get out of here. I don't trust the people who are arresting other people. I'm going to free the other prisoners. So, yeah, Bond, thumbs up. I agree with that morality choice. They steal one of those stair cars for boarding airplanes, and I love it.
It was so silly, but
but it works. Nice. They're able to.
It's like that's an easy way for you to get over the fence and get away, but you immediately get captured by these people that are camouflaged just in the section of the base, or outside the base. It was very convenient.
Once the ambush. The first time you watch it, you're like, oh, wow, those people really just came out of nowhere. The second time you watch it, they stand out like video game breakable objects. The color just isn't quite right. And you're like, oh, yeah, I knew there were people there. But, fortunately, our prisoner immediately greets them and says, hey, take them with us. They're not Russians. They're just dressed like it. And so they go back to their camp, and we discover that these are the freedom fighters, the Mujahideen. And Bond is like, please, you got to get me back into that base. I've got to stop Koskov. And they're like, sorry, man, we got to go support a drug deal. They don't say we got to go support a drug deal. They're just like, we've got something else, and we cannot give you anything. And you're a couple of white people in the middle of the desert where we can't trust you on your own. You're stuck with us. And I like that because it did fit with my perspective of, a country that's actively at war. They're not going to just let a couple of civilians go. Like that's,
about it.
That's how we discover the drug deal. And it just works out that the drug deal is being headed by Georgi and his henchmen. And so Bond was just accidentally taken to exactly where he needed to be.
By the people that were hiding outside the base, maybe on order of the KGB. That's where I'm like, they were doing a deal with these people. Were they just spying on the people they were doing a deal with before when they picked up Bond? But their person was captured, but their person would be in charge of helping with this drug deal. Okay. So why was their person in jail?
I had to watch. This was one of the benefits of having watched it twice, is I finally understand this relationship. The people outside were part. I'm going to call him the prince. I don't remember his name. Is it Necros? No, that's the. It's Kamran Shah. Necros is the henchman who works for Koskov, for Georgi. Kamran Shah is the prince. That's who I'm just going to call him the prince. He's Shah. He was in prison. His guys were outside. They were planning on breaking in that night and saving the prince. The prince gets out, and so he rescues Bond instead. They go back to his camp, and the prince has to back up another tribe leader. That tribe leader is going to sell some opium to the Soviets, and even though the prince hates the Soviets and wants to kill them, he's willing to sell or help this other tribe sell drugs because he's like, it's opium, it's poison. Whether they die from a bullet or from opium, I don't care. And so when Bond's like, this is the guy I need to kill, can we blow him up? He's specifically like, not until the money has changed hands. Like, we have to do this deal because I need this ally from this other tribe. And once they have the money, we can go after Koskov because I hate that dude and I want to kill him. But we can't do it until the money has traded hands. So does that make sense? Does that work out though?
But I don't recall if the money changes hands in time because Bond gets spotted. Okay.
Yeah. So and then the order of events is Bond gets the C4. He packs it into one of the medicine packs / opium packs. Then he goes to load it onto the truck. He stays in the truck to, set the timer, and the truck leaves. Like, they take him back to the airport. And Kara is like, we can't just leave Bond. And the prince is like, well, like, that was not part of the plan. Like, we were going to blow it up and then ride away. And now Bond is in a truck. Like, what's happening? And so she leaves. That instigates them to follow with their machine guns, but they're in trucks. The Mujahideen are on horses. So presumably there's going to be a time difference between Bond and his friends showing up. But Bond is in the truck. He helps with unloading. I don't know why. He goes all the way into the plane, sets the timer, and then starts to get out after they are closing the doors. And that is finally when he is discovered. When he's walking out and Georgi and Necros look up and they go face to face, eye to eye. And Bond now has to fight all of the Russian military alone from inside this plane. Fortunately, Georgi is always like, don't shoot the plane. So he's able to.
The plane is explosive, I don't know.
I mean, it has all the drugs on it, so like it would be a pain in the butt to
drugs
requisition a new plane and transfer all the drugs over there. Like, I think you're right. It's better to say the plane is explosive, and that's the reason.
Something.
Yeah, but he's really protecting the drugs, and that's the reason Bond is able to stay alive. But Bond is in a plane with a bomb that he activated. He knows there is a ticking time bomb in this plane.
I was very concerned of, I don't know. I know it keeps popping up to see like, oh, time's running out, but like, you got caught and then you decide to fly the plane out of there. I'm like, but why wouldn't you just like leave the plane to blow up? They don't know there's a bomb in there. They might suspect
he could have just been captured at that moment. He could have been like, you caught me. I found
Kaboom.
out that you're doing this opium, and like he could have just BS'd his way through something where he's continuing to be a super spy. He doesn't have to care about the drugs from this point. There's a 10-minute timer. Like, but whatever. That's the only thing that pulls me out, where I'm just like, this whole action sequence does not have to be happening because Bond does not have to be in this plane.
Yeah, that was my main gripe about Afghanistan. It's very it didn't feel like it was super related to whatever money problems they were trying to do for the Georgi. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I guess you can get this money, but I thought you already got the money. Like, Whitaker got the money from the KGB. This is Georgi
step
trying
2 of the plan.
get money. Yeah.
It's Georgi getting plan for or getting money for Whitaker. So the money has not gone through yet. That was whole reason they had to kill Pushkin, because Pushkin has requisitioned the money, but there is time
he asked for a
him.
refund.
Well, he said he was canceling the order, not asking for. Like I said the wrong thing there. He's canceling their deal. And so if he gets back to Russia, he cancels the requisition. The money doesn't go through. The diamonds are being fronted by Whitaker. That is Whitaker's personal money going into Afghanistan to buy the opium. Georgi will then sell the opium for a huge profit. They will return to Tangier with Whitaker and then buy up the weapons that they agreed to buy for the original requisition order. And so they could just be embezzling money repeatedly, but then they're leaving with these huge profits, and that's what Pushkin is onto. He's like, I know something's up. Yeah.
I did not follow it.
Okay. Yeah. Like that is the order of events that has to happen in order for things to happen. That's why Pushkin has to be out of the picture, because if he cancels this requisition, then Whitaker is out all that money that he put up for the diamonds. But in my head, the huge profits that they're going to make from, selling the opium more than covers the diamond investment. Like, so, criminals are selfish. That's the main thing here. We got to maximize all the profits.
We got to barely touch on the fight. Neckers attacks Bond. They're flying.
Well,
Kara is flying the plane.
Let's get into it. Because this one's also probably the most confusing and most unnecessary part of the movie. It's fun to watch, but you can't think about it too hard, because as you do, you're like, none of that needed to happen. First, Kara shows up. Well, first Bond shows up. He kicks off the action, but nobody will shoot at the plane because that's where the drugs are. Then Kara shows up. She is immediately caught up to by the prince and his gang. And they're like, you stay here. We're going to go start some crap. And so they come in, guns blazing. They're just having fun. They are not here for Bond's benefit. They're not here to rescue Bond. They're just here to kill some Russians and have a good time doing it.
Guess so.
Yes. But that kicks off the action sequence. Eventually, a Russian finds Kara. She has to beat him up. And she gets into the Jeep and starts pursuing Bond. I think it is very funny when Bond sees her and does a double take. Like, what are you doing? Because he just looks so contented as he's driving the plane up the runway.
Full of drugs and a bomb.
Yeah. Happily going to steal a bombed plane. It's going to be great. But he lowers the ramp, allows Kara to drive into it. It's a very smooth stunt. I don't know how much of it was done in camera and how much of it was done in a studio, but the visual storytelling is good enough for me to be like, that was dope. And And then Necros is able to also get onto the plane. The Bond takes off with the plane. They're up in the air. He asks Kara to hold it steady. And then we get our Uncharted 2 fight. And I love it.
I mean, it was... trying to think. I didn't watch Uncharted or play Uncharted, so I get the reference, but I don't know that I've
only ever played...
compare it to.
I have only ever played the first one, and this particular set piece was not part of it. It might have been Uncharted 3 now that I'm thinking about it. But the big set piece in Uncharted is that one of these carrier planes has its back door opened, and every cargo load is falling out of it and held on by one single strand. Well, they get that idea from The Living Daylights, where Kara opens the back hatch, and then all of the bundled up drugs get pulled down and they're held on by two straps. One of them we keep focusing on because it is going to break. But first we got to have a fist fight, like 100 miles, well, maybe like 5 miles in the air, on, hanging on this bundle of drugs. And
Pretty
I
cool.
love the imagery. It's very cool.
Felt like Mission Impossible.
Yes, it was so stunning to look at. And there are some of these stunt scenes, these big set piece moments, even in this movie that has the lowest of stakes, where you can see that this franchise was so visionary and so influential on the rest of culture. Like, I love it.
I can agree with it, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they have their fight. Bond is eventually able to get the best of Necros, but Necros is able to hold on to Bond's boot. And
but nothing else. Don't focus on any of the other spots you could hang on to.
He could have grabbed any of the nets, any of the stuff that was flapping around in the air, but no, he only grabs that one shoe, and Bond uses his knife to cut every one of the laces. He had a one-liner, and it was so bad I can't even remember it.
I don't even remember it either.
Yeah, it didn't... it's going to bug me, but I can't let it bug me because it wasn't good enough to stay in my head. Therefore, it doesn't matter.
Nope. It does not get here.
But Necros is dead. He is not coming back at the end of the movie. We are not going to have a late stage henchman showing up in this movie. But we haven't had any of those in any of the...
most recent.
Yeah, the John Glenn movies. I think he hated that.
I think it was a random way to make things wrap up. It was...
See, and I'm so fine with that visual identity that I kind of miss it. Now that we're in the John Glenn era of realism and low stakes, I'm like, I want my gimmicky henchman showing up for one last act of revenge. I know you're not a huge fan, but I'm gonna love it till the day I die. Now, I hate one thing. Before we took off, another plane was landing. Bond magically is able to take off over the plane, but then Georgi's Jeep crashes into that jet with this tremendous explosion.
Oh, yeah. That's why I thought that he died.
Yep. And then we cut back to him, and he's just a little smoky like a cartoon. But he's perfectly fine. He's okay. He's alive, guys. I hated that. I hated that so
close
much.
To an explosion.
Yeah, like 2 things exploded in that shot, and the plane and the Jeep. But then the next time we see him, he's just
I wonder if they were like reshots, because like I could see him dying right there and kind of ending the movie, but that doesn't allow him to show up when Bond has finished off Whitaker and get sent off by Pushkin. All the good guys have won.
Yeah. And frankly, I think you are probably correct, because the Whitaker fight that comes up next is interesting, but kind of bland, and it doesn't feel like an ending to the movie. But, Bond is able to get the better of Whitaker, who has all these high-tech weapons and gadgets. It wants to be interesting. I just never really got into Whitaker as a villain.
Yeah.
And so I didn't buy it. And maybe audiences didn't at the time, and that's the reason we didn't kill Georgi, because we need an actual villain to come back into the picture after Whitaker is dead. Or dealt with. I don't even know if he's killed or captured.
He is dead.
Okay. I'm sitting here like, he is so forgettable.
Bond's keys push over a statue type thingy on him, and that kills him.
Mm-hmm. And then Pushkin comes back in, and, Georgi is like, oh no, I thought you were dead. Well, here's Bond. I got him for you. And and Pushkin is able to be like, oh, don't worry. I'm bringing you back to Russia in a diplomatic bag, which I guess is what you would put corpses in. But I don't know what a diplomatic bag is.
That could be, I feel like a diplomatic case for documents that you need to get to your embassy.
Yeah, that's the briefest Googling is telling me that that's typically what it's used for. But I guess they're
like a body bag,
either a body bag or a prison bag or something. But
something.
Pushkin is alive, and in a show of good faith, Bond has turned in Koskov, and they're like, well, what are we going to do about Kara? What could we possibly do? And that sets us up to the ending where, someone was able to get her a diplomatic pass where she can just go between East and West blocks whenever she wants.
Thanks for your help defeating your boyfriend.
Yes. Now you can play in Vienna and in Prague. I think Prague is in Czechoslovakia.
Now that you've added some of that context, the fact that the freedom fighters show up to talk to the diplomatic General Gogol, I'm like, was this like a reconciliation type of thing? Because that's still Russia.
No,
right?
They're back in the West. They're in Vienna, Austria.
But the Gogol guy was...
Gogol is still part of Russia, but he is in the West. He can't be upset about the Shah and his men forcing their way in, because they're more welcome than he is, to be frank. But Gogol has been a part of these films for a while, and so I don't even care that he's just a friendly face amongst the crowd. Here he is, the former head of the KGB, still a top-ranking Soviet, but he's just going to go chill with Bond and gang. Unfortunately, Bond is not there.
Bond is hiding.
It makes Kara so sad that she has to leave. And you're right. He's hiding in her dressing room because he's a creep. Because if you're Bond, you have to be a creep.
It didn't feel like they had quite enough positive interaction. It was just the escaping from the jail together, and then they're on the plane. I guess they get out of the plane, but it didn't. She's not at Whitaker's place. It was more like a trauma bond.
I really liked them for all of the movie until the final scene. It's at that final scene where I'm like, okay, I don't buy their relationship. And maybe they just filmed it at a different point in production, and so the chemistry wasn't quite there. But throughout the rest of the movie, I genuinely thought we were going to have wedding bells by the end of this. I was like, we've got another Bond girl that Bond loves. That's awesome. It's only
have to kill her off before the next movie, though.
Yeah. So that's why she's safe. They had a bad last scene, and that's what allows her to live.
She gets to live.
But otherwise, I'm fine with it. They're able to explain things. We get to see General Gogol again. I like General Gogol. I'm a big fan.
I think he's probably pretty recognizable.
Yeah.
I wonder how long he goes.
That part I don't know either. Because, at this point, he's a kind of a comedic character. That might be why he is no longer the head of the KGB, because how do you have the head of the enemy be someone that audiences love to see?
Don't it?
Yep. So that's all supposition. I don't know if that's actually rooted in fact. I just know that I have a soft spot for General Gogol, and it would make total sense for him to no longer be the main bad guy of the Russians if he's too liked, And Pushkin, I think, fits the bill a little bit better. I think he's a bit more intimidating. I hope we get him in more movies. Because
this was his last one.
Don't tell me that.
I mean, I just found it out.
That's so sad. Pushkin was such a good head of the KGB.
First one was Spy Who Loved Me. Then he was in 1, 2, 3. He's 1, 2, 3.
Oh, are you talking Gogol?
6. Yeah, Gogol. Yeah.
Okay. See, I'm sitting here thinking you're talking Pushkin, and I was like, oh no.
Oh.
I mean, it's possible that this was the only Pushkin movie, but I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only one for Pushkin.
That's incredible. So we're done with Gogol. I'm glad we got to have him one last time, and I'm glad that he's now in a diplomatic role. He's no longer a bad guy.
Yep.
I liked Pushkin. I would have been happy to see him in more movies. But one thing you will notice when you watch the credits is that this one does not tell us which movie Bond will return in. It just says James Bond will return. They haven't decided on a title yet. Yep. Yeah, and this is the beginning of the troubles because, we've been able to kick out a movie 1 to 2 years. And then between Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton, there was a 2-year break that probably felt longer to most people. They were probably ready for a Bond the next year. But we were now in a 2-year pattern that kind of started with, let me see. I think it started with Lewis Gilbert, where it was every 2 years. Guy Hamilton had a 3-year gap between The Man with the Golden Gun and The Spy Who Loved Me. But then after that, we were on a 2-year schedule, and I think that we had months difference, but we're going to have a 2-year gap between the next one. And so I don't know what I'm saying. I'll probably cut every bit of that. I thought I had a point, and then I looked back in time and was like, nope, never mind. There's no point. Ignore. No point.
Just distances between films. And this one, I think maybe if there was supposed to be a third one with, I just love Timothy Dalton. Maybe that's all that happened. They couldn't quite. I wonder what the numbers are on the next one. Maybe it was just too low. We can't be our Bond.
Money is part of the issue. The director is part of the issue. Timothy Dalton was also part of the issue. Apparently, after License to Kill, they just run into all these contract troubles where everybody has an issue and they're ready to go into production, and then someone else has an issue, and now we have to negotiate contracts again, and they just kept doing this over and over and over again until they just wiped the slate clean, and they were like, you know what? Let's just start over. And that's the reason for the 6-year gap. GoldenEye is a reboot of the franchise because they were sick of dealing with contracts at that point. They were just like, we're just starting over. No more of these games.
I think I enjoyed this one enough to want to watch the next one. I'm trying to be hopeful that it's I don't know that it'll be better because I've rated this one highly, but I'm hoping for more because it's a competent Bond. What's his next mission go like?
I know that I have seen License to Kill, I know I have seen it, but I can't remember anything about it. And I really hope it's good, because this was a lot of fun. And I want to believe that, similar to Lazenby, that Timothy Dalton just kind of got a bad shake, just victim of circumstance and not his own abilities that were the issue. Because I liked him as much as I liked Roger Moore. He had kind of a clumsy start, but by the end of the movie, I was fully sold. I was like, and unlike Roger Moore, where I felt like his early movies was Roger Moore playing Sean Connery's James Bond, we were now allowed to have an actor interpret their own version of James Bond. And so Timothy Dalton, right out the gate, is his own version of Bond. So I'm like, I was really surprised by this movie, and I had a really good time with it. So let's say what we always say, which is that on this podcast, we do ratings, not grades. A rating out of 10 would say that the middle is a 5 out of 10, whereas a grade would say, in a scale out of 10, a 7 is the middle, and that doesn't make any sense. So don't get offended if you hear one of us say a movie is a 4 or a 5. We are pretty much putting it right in the middle of the pack. We're saying it's watchable, or maybe you won't like it. That's all I'm saying is, for us, 5 out of 10 is an average movie. And with all of that said, my friend Justin, please tell me what you thought about The Living Daylights and what you would rate it out of 10.
Single watch, I'd probably say 6. Watching it 2 times and kind of getting more context, a 7. But I think the fact that if you're asking someone to watch it twice to get a better idea, because they have no idea what connects to what, I'd have to stick with a 6. I think A New Bond is fun, and I think they introduced him but contradicted what it was showing on screen, because like the wolf whistle, because of the like the other innuendos that he's a playboy or something. Like, I don't see any of that. You're just informing me of his previous behavior, whereas we see Kara's boyfriend at a pool, like living it up, and he's more of an on-screen menace than actual James Bond.
I see him with a wolf whistle more than I see Timothy Dalton.
So 6 is what I would land on for your just run-of-the-mill Friday night movie pick. I think it's better than some of the Bond films that we've seen. I only kind of wanted to rate it as a 7 because of Lazenby being like, you know what, when they get a shot at a new Bond, like, some people can just do it, and it goes pretty well. Because I think the first one was Roger Moore. I rated right in the middle of like, that was fine.
No, you did not. That was Live and Let Die, which you gave a 2.5.
Oh, but whose Diamonds Are Forever? Oh, was that Sean Connery came
that
back?
Was final Connery.
Oh, then yeah. Then Roger Moore, no, I did not enjoy your first movie. So,
yeah. He had among the worst introductions to any character. I really hated Live and Let Die as much as I hated Thunderball. So, so you're locking in 6 as your final answer?
Yeah, we're going with 6 because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more a second time, but if you just picked something to watch, you could probably watch Moonraker and have a more humorous and fun time getting to see Jaws win life.
You know, I'm right there with you. I'm also giving this a 6, but I'm giving it a 6 because of my second viewing, not in spite of. So I was initially, well, frankly, when I first started it and I was like, what is this fever dream of a movie? I was initially at a 4, and then when I got caught up, I was like, okay, this is a 5. Like, I really enjoyed getting caught up with the story and being like, ha, I'm as smart as Bond, even though I'm, half a movie behind him in figuring things out. But I'm having a great time doing it. And so then I watch it a second time and I start to see the subtleties, the foreshadowing that is so small that you really have to watch it a second time to pick up on that stuff. But unlike a movie like The Sixth Sense that is built on its twist, once you watch a movie that's built on a twist and you can never have that viewing again. It is a one-time viewing and it is over. With this Bond movie that has kind of a twist inside of it, you're really going in there for an action movie, and that first time twist is just kind of like an added treat. It's like the nougat in the center. And so while, yes, the twist has been spoiled for me, I'm still able to go in and watch an action movie that has people hanging out of a plane on a net. Like, there's some very cool things in here, and that lands me at the 6. That's where I'm like, okay, I am willing to watch this one again. And this is kind of, to me, well, this is the exact same score that I gave on Her Majesty's Secret Service. I'm shocked at how well a new Bond was able to get into this role. And I felt that way with Lazenby, who only got one shot at it. And now I feel that way with Dalton, who gets 2 shots at it.
Yeah. I think that's a solid rating of it. I think between the 6s that we have, it'd be tough to split hairs, but maybe we'll do that at the very end.
Yeah, maybe we will do an ultimate ranking where, like, scores be damned. We're actually going to put these things on pedestals and say, where do they actually fall? Who cares what the score was? Like, how enjoyable was it to watch, and would you watch it again?
If I can remember each movie in that much detail. Oof.
That will be the hard part.
Yeah.
But I really like The Living Daylights. It gets its title from a scene in M's office when Bond justifies not killing Kara. And he's like, I shot her rifle. I must have scared the living daylights out of her. And that was when I was like, oh, that's what that means. That's so dumb.
Yeah. Like, I'd heard that phrase before, and it's like, but that's not the title of the show, but that is how it's used. So it was, it's weird. It's a normal phrase, but it's a weird title.
It really is. It is one of the more bizarre titles that we have had because it's so benign. But it fits so perfectly with such a low stakes movie. And I think that's the reason I can't give it a higher rating. If this movie really was dealing with something like global nuclear war or actually killing off spies, I might have put this at a 7 or an 8 because then things would have come together. But the fact that we're dealing with embezzlement and drugs, I'm just like, come on, do we need the world's greatest spy on this?
Yeah. We needed the 004 guy that fell.
Yeah.
Wait, I guess not.
He's dead, so we can't have him. Oh, you know what I never did? Now that we're at the end, I might as well say it. This came from the 14th book. This was another short story in an anthology. Same book as Octopussy, and I'm pretty sure this one is the title of the entire book. I think it is called The Living Daylights, but I could be wrong. I have never read these books. Probably won't ever read these books. They come from a time period when I don't particularly vibe with the writing. But, other people might dig it. Yeah. All right. We did it again. Let's do the closing thing.
For the 17th time. I don't know which one we're on.
14th? Because we've had
14th.
15th.
I mean, this might not make it in the episode, but I think we will reach easy movies to remember to watch and get through. But then I'm also excited for after Bond, what we pick next, because then it can be anything.
Yeah, and I'm excited to get there. I don't want to get too excited. Okay, this was number 15. We have done this 15 times. Yes, it really does feel like a lot. If you have enjoyed us and you want to get in touch with us, the two best ways to do it, and one of them is definitely better than the other. Probably the worst way to get in touch with us is through Blue Sky, and that's only because I keep forgetting to log in. So we might even have notifications that I've never looked at. So I apologize. It exists. I just never use it. And then email. You can email us at potatochippicturespod@gmail.com. You can tell us which movie franchise you would like us to look at. We'll add it to the list and we'll come up with an order at some point. If you want to share, suggestions would be wonderful. I would love to have some of those. If you would like to share maybe like bite-sized doses of the podcast, check out our TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube shorts. There we put little snippets from the episodes, and you can enjoy those and support us that way. But the best way, we are at the number one way to support this show, interact with it on whatever device or platform you are listening to. If you're on Spotify, that is leaving a comment and subscribing. If you're on YouTube, it's liking, subscribing, and commenting. Whatever your platform is, interact with it, and we will love that. We had someone interact with us on TikTok. May I read our comment that was sent to us?
Sure.
We've had a few, but most of the time they're just like haha or thumbs up, like something that doesn't matter. But this time someone was pointing out on one of our videos about Zorin and Mayday. They said, of A View to Kill, Mama Sass Records on TikTok said, this is the one Bond movie where the villains are outright cooler than Bond. And I do agree with them, even with your zinger. Do you remember your zinger, or shall I?
Oh. About the Zorn dude?
Yeah, Zorn and Mayday being cooler than Bond.
Oh, I
can't believe it. Your line has been living in my head. I thought you would be so excited to say it, and you don't even remember saying it.
No, that was a Tuesday for me. No. What was it?
Your retort, and I'm going to say it as a retort, was, but they are blimp enthusiasts.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a very astute accusation against Zorin and Mayday. They're have
cooler.
The coolest hobbies.
But the blimp, I guess it did come out of a cool expando box type thing.
Yeah, that part was pretty neat.
Very random.
Yes.
Like, we need a blimp so we can slowly make it across the Golden Gate Bridge so we can have the fight. If it's a plane, it's not going to work. It's too fast.
Well, you know how maneuverable blimps are. That's why you use them exclusively to kidnap women off the ground.
That's probably the craziest part. Oh, my.
Oh, yeah. So I still have a soft spot for the villains of A View to a Kill, but it really was such a stinker of a movie. But, fun stinker of a movie. But I don't want to go back in time. Instead, yeah, I want to tease, and I'm going to say Potato Chip Pictures and James Bond will return in License to Kill. Thank you guys so much for listening. Goodbye.
See you later.
We did it!
Oh, I'm kind of excited to watch the next one because, it looks like it made the least amount of money, but reading on further, it says that it was released among one of the most successful summer blockbuster seasons ever.
Ooh.
Because it was Batman, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Lethal Weapon 2, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and Ghostbusters 2.
That is unfair. That is unfair. Like, how
so
do
it
you
could
compete?
be all right.